All right, hello everyone. Nick Green here with BehaviorFit. In today's episode, we're going to call this a special COVID-19 edition. The purpose is not to add to the hysteria, the pandemic, right? I don't want to be insensitive about what's kind of happening in the world, but just I wanted to offer a couple things to think about when we're looking at the situation when it comes to looking at our health and fitness programming. So again, this isn't intended to get anybody scared or bent out of shape. I want to offer a couple things to think about when it comes to planning through the long haul here. We're going to be going through this for a while, so I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon. I'll be releasing this. I typically release podcasts on Friday, but if you're listening to this now, you're already here. So all right, let's dig into it. So really, when it comes to COVID-19, this situation, this pandemic, it's something that's a lot of the health officials have been saying this is a little bit out of the norm. But when it comes to looking at this from a behavioral perspective, I just kind of look at this as a kind of a significant environmental event, right? If I'm wearing my research hat, I'm always looking at data. We've seen just the different types of data that I've looked at in the past. So step counts, weightlifting data, performance data when it comes to running times, all those things. Right? That's just kind of that's what we talk about, right? But before we can get to that stage of evaluating the data, we always have to make sure that we have good valid data, right? And when we're talking about validity of data, what also comes to mind is if we are familiar with some of the basic research approaches and things that we need to keep in mind, that there are also threats to internal validity and external validity. Internal validity is the extent to which we can be confident in the data that we're looking at. For us as an athlete, as a coach, just how good is it for the day-to-day of what we're working with? And on the flip side, you have the threat to external validity. So how well my findings, let's say I work with one athlete, how well do those findings apply to somebody else? How well do they generalize to another individual athlete, and so on? But when it comes to putting things in context to COVID-19, there's a threat to internal validity called history. And this is what we're talking about here. So we have history being a significant threat. And so what that means is anytime we're looking at our data, we're looking at a line graph. So if we look at the Excel here on the video, again, this is if you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and look at the YouTube video. But if we have any type of line graph, we want to think about step count performance, for example, before and after a significant event here. Say before and after. I didn't put in the title. I just fixed it now. Before and after COVID-19. And this will be, I know we have international listeners out there. This will be in the context of COVID-19 as it relates to activities that occur in the United States. So when we're looking at any type of line graph or data, we oftentimes will drop in, vertical lines that are called phase change lines, which help us describe what we did as a coach to change our athletes' performance. So just as some example here, I have some dummy data on the Excel spreadsheet. So let's say in the month of January, we had on average, the person took looks like about 5,000 steps a day during January, and then let's go ahead and I have a box hidden that is hiding the February date. So let's say it goes until let's look at the next phase here that goes until from February to the first week of March. So now let me fix this title. What happened here is that our exercise steps increased when something happened, and that something happened was to the right of that vertical red line, the right of that intervention here. I'm just playing around with my titles. Why won't you delete? Delete. Oh, okay. I wrote it twice. Okay. That there. Let's move the title back up. Okay, back on track. Okay. So now what we do is we can compare. Oh my gosh. We compare the the weekly average steps on the left side of on the phase change line, which is around 5,000, to now we started this exercise program, and we got up to an average of, let's say, 8,000 steps. So great. We're confident that no other environmental variables are responsible for that increased step counts, right? We're all working with typical adults. I say typical in the sense that most listeners are familiar with that language, but we have typical adults working with us, working with me. Okay, we nearly doubled their steps, right? So from A to B. So these are hypothetical data as they relate to changes in between late January to early February. That's good and well, right? Well, now let's speed up to March. And here I have March is the time of the month that we're at now. What's today? March 15th. So we have March 15th here. So we're about into the 11th and 12th week of the year. So then now, what happens here is we drop in another phase change line in between weeks 10 and 11. So now this is where the context of the United States, so this was just last Friday, President Trump declared a national emergency. So let's drop that phase change line to the right of that last data point when we were on the exercise program. Now, let's tie it back to internal validity. This national emergency, so a lot of things are happening in the environment. Things are official, right? We've seen all the school closings. We've seen church groups get canceled. We've seen conferences being canceled. So now, this is a significant environmental event that I would say is going to affect how well we believe our current exercise program is effective. So hypothetically, if we walk out the rest of the data, we would see, maybe, I'll just move the box down. Maybe we see a sudden decrease, right? So that big change affected a lot of the activities that we were working on. Then maybe it rebounds here in April. But this area, the next 6 to 8 weeks is incredibly important when it comes to figuring out what was responsible for that decrease. So again, if we were to just look at the averages in January, let's say we had 5,000 steps per week, and then our intervention, our exercise program that we worked on was good. We got up to 10,000, 8 to 10,000, and now this is pretty much in real time. Let's say we kick off this week, and now we see, boom, a sudden decrease in overall exercise average steps and things like that. So the point of bringing this up is that, okay, without bringing in that phase change line, if we were to connect these lines again, we wouldn't know what happened, right? But of course, most of us are not living under a rock. We know what's happening. Right, so here, let's just connect the dots here again. I'm working on the video. I had a line connected, and then I disconnected it, so I connected it back. So here, again, if we didn't know what happened, we would think that, our exercise program was falling off. But now if we undo that and add that back together, we can say, okay, now that makes sense. We see that there is a direct correlation, more than likely, that these events, the declaration of the national emergency related to COVID-19, and our step counts, our exercise minutes, also decreased at the same time. So now it's not the case that specifically that the national emergency caused a decrease in step counts, but we can be a little bit more confident in what's happening in our programs when we account for this historical threat to internal validity. So that's just kind of like the basic primer here. And just to get to the textbook, I looked up, it's always good to go back to the definitions here. So looking at Johnston and Pennypacker's strategies and tactics of behavioral research, internal validity refers to the appropriateness of attributing a causal role to independent variables. So here, again, we're not in the lab, this isn't a research study, but can we attribute what's happening to COVID-19 response? Can we attribute what's happening to other variables? So here, I think, is kind of the bridge that I hope to make here when it comes to figuring out how well our fitness programs will maintain in the face of adversity. So That's kind of it for the graph, but let's go ahead and jump to kind of like the take-home points, how to adapt when it comes to looking at our fitness programming. So here, again, I just started with that phase change line with the United States declaring a national emergency. But we can start breaking that down, and I'll use my own example here in a bit. So really what's happening is that there are other kind of cascading environmental events that are occurring as a result of the ban on large groups of people getting together. So you have certain gyms may be closed, certain public spaces are no longer available, right? So those environments that might have playgrounds with the kids, those environments that give you opportunities to engage in your favorite fitness or hobby are closed, right? We can't participate. We're encouraged to socially distance ourselves, right? So I know with my own gym, and I'll get into this again with the details later, that the class times have been altered just to decrease the amount of interactions between just the number of people. Again, my gym is a very popular gym, a lot of members, so modifying just the frequency of social interactions was modified as a result of the gym schedule being updated as well. So when it comes to it, we need to think about how well are we planning these activities, right? So our environment is changing. We are already starting to see people being asked to work from home. Certain industries are starting to close down, right? Schools are closing, right? So really, all of us are going to be faced with some type of decision when it comes to our fitness and maintaining our health. So, right, a lot of us we'll get through. We'll see each other on the other side of this first initial wave of the pandemic. So it's important to think about this kind of transition state between, okay, we just had a really good fitness program going. We're going to have some barriers, some hiccups along the way, some threats to threats to our programming, really. So now it comes down to what's going to be most important here. So the most important, right, is going to be limiting social contact. So in a previous episode, I talked about functions of behavior. I love CrossFit because of the social piece, right? So now that is going to be a reinforcer that is likely no longer available or reduced to some extent because there'll be fewer members available during class times. Maybe those fewer people are one of my preferred kind of workout buddies. We think about those things, right? Those environmental events all kind of trickling down from this national, emergency, declaration of the national emergency, and so on and so forth. So obviously we want to be staying active every day. So we have to have a hierarchy of things that we want to make sure that we're doing. So of course we need to wash our hands, social distance ourselves. When it comes to looking at our own fitness routines and exercise habits, we got to think about, okay, what did we just do for the past 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Can we maintain that under the current conditions that'll be available, right? So the next, I didn't really say that right. Can we engage in those same routines given the new set of environmental contingencies that will be available? Right? The world's it is already looking different, and it'll remain to look different over the next 2 to 3 months. So can we maintain those same workouts? Think about where physically we're working out. Are we working out at home? Are we working out in a gym? Think about the timing, right? So people's work may be impacted. So we think about our schedule may change. We might have to, for those of us who have parents, or that are parents that have older kids, right? So now the kids are home. So now those times have to be different, right? Think about what you will do. So you can do a lot of things in a gym that you can't do at home. There's equipment available in the gym that you don't have at home, right? So you think about all those things. So really, I think you can almost look at there's 3 plans moving forward when it comes to adapting to this event that we're all kind of going through. So just ideas to keep us motivated, to help prompt us to continue through this very unique circumstance. So what are the possible plans? Plan A, keep the same routine, right? Can we keep the same routine in the face of these environmental challenges? Maybe you already are a marathon runner. You run by yourself. You're good to go. You don't see anybody on the trails. You're good to go. This environmental event, that phase change, this national emergency, does not affect you. So you are actually, unaffected by it. Plan B, can you keep the same routine with minimal contact? Is it possible? If you have a gym membership where there's a lot of people there, the gym may shut down. So how do we adapt and alter that routine in the face of adversity? And Plan C, maybe we just need to flat out alter the routine if your gym has already made modifications. I've seen some gyms out there, they're starting to clean equipment, they are changing schedules, right? So on and so forth. Others, Plan D, you could do nothing, but I would say, if you're listening, that's probably not a choice and you're not interested in doing that. So again, going through the list of options, think about all those barriers that are available. Can you keep the routine that you have moving forward? If not, maybe we can keep that routine with minimal contact, or Plan C, you may have to completely alter that routine altogether. And so what I'll do here is I'll use my own gym routine as kind of like a live planning session. So I have the iPad out here, so I'll have this on the video. So if I think about my current routine, what I was doing was I was at the days I was working out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, right? And that would be at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. That was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would do that. And then Saturdays, I would work out usually either 8:30 or 8:30 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. So now I'll put a kind of a phase change line on the iPad here. What has changed now is that the Saturday schedules, the class times changed to 8, 9, 10, 11, that was Saturday. And then Sunday's typically my rest day, so that was not affected there. So I'll just say NA for that. Now, these are kind of the current states here. So I have my plan for the next week of, let's be March 15th. Right, so the plan for the next week will be to attend Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. But this is in the event that the gym is still open. The gym is open. What could happen? The gym could close, right? So let's say the gym closes. I think the times will still be the same. I'll still pick the same times, but now I need to find the location. Fortunately, I have two things. Fortunately, I do have some equipment at home that I can use. So I have some plates. My wife has a ladies barbell. The only difference between a male and female barbell is the female barbell is the diameter is a little shorter, and then it's 10 pounds lighter, so I could still get the same work done. Not a big deal there. And we do have some equipment, but also the location will be different. The programming could alter, so we may have to look into that. Again, I'm just kind of live troubleshooting here. So even with my own schedule, I need to plan for some changes happening. And so location, equipment, we do have some equipment here, but I have a friend that lives down the street. He has pretty much a home gym, but I don't know if that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 to 7 in the morning schedule would work for him, so maybe I might have to shift. So there's a lot of playing it by ear, but things could change in a couple of days at the gym, so I may have to alter a routine or do something different. But yeah, this is just kind of like live troubleshooting. Again, this COVID-19 is probably a once-in-a-lifetime event for all of us. I hope so. I hope there's nothing worse than this, of course, but it's already hard enough to start all of these routines, but then when we have this significant event that of course we all need to make these tiny sacrifices to benefit the health of us all. So yeah, that's all I kind of had planned for this episode here. Just kind of a special episode. I'll go ahead and do a quick review of my notes here. Again, when we're looking at COVID-19, if I'm looking at this from a behavioral perspective, this is a significant environmental event that we can just kind of chalk it up on our phases here, on our data path. So we can look at, okay, we do see that when things happen, we may experience a decreased level of overall physical activity, over the next couple months. But the next challenge is, once these environmental events hopefully are just temporary, can we go ahead and rebound, put our foot on the gas, and get back to normal, get back to business as usual? As a coach, as a researcher, as a practitioner, I'm always looking at all these sources of threats to internal validity. So what's going on in our clients' programs? Here, with an event like COVID-19, it's such I say obvious, but it's such a salient, it's such a well-known environmental event that it's easy to mark on a graph. Sometimes, what happens most often is we see dips in our data, we don't know the sources of control, and it just becomes difficult. So we may think that exercise program isn't working, when in fact we could have had like a significant, event that affected, overall exercise and physical activity levels. So, accounting for internal validity, incredibly important, not only to a researcher, but to, a coach on the day-to-day basis.